Oh well, hello guys. Uh, Welcome to Investing with JYK. And well, I am not in the office, so I have a single screen to work with. So bear with me. Uh, I think since supposedly we're not supposed to go live for another 2 minutes, I'll just open a can of beer. I'm pretty bad at managing this Premiere thing since I typically just don't have a plan in mind and just make a video as I feel like. So, hello, long time no see indeed. Okay, yes, I've been well, thank you for the concern. Today we'll dabble on the topic of Chinese tech giants. And bear in mind, whatever I say is just gossip. And since I have not worked for these companies, I've been a developer of on some of their platforms. I've been a user of some of their products, and I have talked to people that has worked inside them and whatnot. But I haven't worked inside, in fact, any one of these companies. So, excuse me. In China, well, there used to be the thing called BAT, so that would be Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent. And now there are actually four new, let's call them incumbents. That's Toutiao, was actually Bytedance, but people know them by their product name, which is Toutiao. Meituan, which is essentially Yelp plus food deliveries, and Didi, which is the company that has been fucked recently by the regulatory guys. Okay, so gossip on them. Let's start with B. Oh, hi, Mr. Bin Sheng. Yes, this hair has been crowdfunded. So Baidu has not done that well since Lu Qi has left the company. Their search engine is pretty bad. For example, let's say if I want to search for, imagine if I'm like a DevOps guy and I want to search for Kubernetes RBAC, right? And I want to know how that works. That's probably what I have in mind. So we can do this. Kubernetes RBAC. And this is what Google gives me, right? Using RBAC authorization. That's basically what I want. And if I do the same thing on Baidu, let's see what we have. Well, first of all, that's actually some gossip. RBAC. What do we have here? Kubernetes RBAC. Oh, it's not too bad. It has the Chinese one at the top, but then it's a bunch of, you start getting, well, I guess it's not too fair because it's not a Chinese thing. So let's do something else. Let's say something like, what should we search? You guys have an idea to test the effectiveness of these search engines? That's something China related. Oh, maybe largest Chinese tech companies by market cap, right? Something like that. I'm just translating that into Chinese. Okay, so that gives exactly what I want. It gives a top 10 on by the end of last year. Let's see what this gives me in Baidu. Well, it's starting to give shit. The first one is somewhat related, but it's from 2018. And then it's a bunch of ads. It's just ads. And this part probably is arguably better. Maybe. It's still not as up to date as what Google gives me. So here you have that. So Baidu can't compete in terms of searches against Google, like zero. Anyone that has used Google will not use Baidu for searching anything, even Chinese content. So that's how bad their tech is. They're now into some self-driving car. They made some money, but overall, they haven't had a proper new product released since, I don't know, maybe a decade ago. So that's Baidu. Right, next one, Alibaba. Well, I've mentioned that I've heard from in the last video, or one of the last videos, that I heard from my friends that they have a bunch of outsourcing people. And that's clearly not that good. And also, they are, in fact, developing something that is a direct competitor of my product, which is called what do you call that thing? Mobi, I think. Damn. Yeah, this guy. So they have about 30-40 engineers working on it, and started off approximately the same time as we started, so end of 2019, early 2020. And well, they haven't yet released their product, so I don't know. Maybe we should wait another year and see, as an example, how competent their tech team is. And in terms of their technical abilities, well, if this is DingTalk, DingTalk is, think of that as Teams or Slack in China, except it's like a more localized version. And if I search for API, I get two almost identical, well, they're not completely identical, they're almost identical documents. And according to the engineers that were trying to integrate with DingDing's API, that my employees, they said, well, the whole thing is filled with bugs, and the API is very inconsistent. You essentially end up with things that are, well, here you have some of those that are, in computer science we call them, not computer science, coding, we call them snake cased. And then you have some that's camel cased. So let's see if, yeah, so here you can see these are camel cased, these are snake cased, and then in the same API, you have things that are snake cased and some things that are camel cased, and also sometimes they put an underscore between corp and ID, and sometimes they don't. Okay, so that tells you all you need to know was their code quality. It's just all over the place. Okay, and so that's Alibaba for you. Tencent pays a little bit less than Alibaba, uh, about 10 to 30% less, according to gossip on the internet. And Tencent is very much C++ focused, which seems a little bit outdated nowadays. I mean, if you were to focus on performance, maybe you should go to Rust instead of C++. It's just too cumbersome to develop with. But that's Tencent, and then their burden that they historical burden that they now have to bear. Toutiao, which is Bytedance. Bytedance is not yet public. Bytedance is, for me, the only respectable Chinese tech company. They pay a shit ton. People work overtime there. They do pay you double or triple the salary for your overtime on Saturdays, and they're canceling that because of political pressures, basically. Why the government want to crack down on Saturdays? Well, to make sure you have enough time to have sex and have babies, I think. Because all that started happening after the census, the seventh census in China. So everything gets tied back to the whole Chinese are not having babies thing. So Bytedance is the only company that is able to operate inside and outside China. It has never positioned itself as a Chinese company, and their revenue's gone just crazy. Their revenue's gone up like crazy. Usually by 100% a year, but this year maybe not so much, as they have reached some kind of plateau. I don't use TikTok, but I do use Feishu, which is a competitor of DingTalk and is basically Slack. It's good. That's the only way I can put it. It's good. It behaves basically the way you want it to behave. It integrates well with all the services that it provides. For example, document sharing and all that, storage. It also does automatic transcription of video conferences, which is very useful. So yeah, it's a good product, and that's a respectable company. And then they are also in my space. Damn. But I like them quite a lot. Unfortunately, they're not public. I mean, even if they're public, I probably wouldn't buy them because they're valued to almost like $1 trillion. So, yeah. Okay, now M. M is Meituan. Meituan, is, as I said, is a Yelp plus Uber Eats, I would say, something like that. They are getting cracked down on antitrust issues. They have a 2-choose-1 contract. So basically, if you don't sign an exclusive contract with Meituan, they will charge you 30% or 25% commission. Otherwise, it's like 18 or something like that. So they're getting fined for that. Don't know how their tech is. Their app seems okay. Haven't talked to anyone that's from Meituan, and they are all competing in the basically grocery business. Bytedance is, I thought they're still losing money at the moment though, but their revenue goes up like crazy because TikTok is very effective at attracting purchasers, basically. And So yeah, Meituan and Alibaba and there's another company that I haven't mentioned, is Pinduoduo, but and even Didi, everybody's in the grocery business. I have no fucking idea why they all want the grocery business, but then that's them. And Meituan's also now getting into the ride-hailing business, and so they're becoming a competitor to Didi. Didi is the Uber of China, basically. It actually bought Uber China. And technical wise, I have one and one only experience with a guy from Didi. He seemed very competent. His thinking is thorough, and he's now working as a CTO of a low-code a startup. But the guy is, he's of the right mind. And I've seen his code, seemed reasonable too. So that's Didi. Other than that, one thing I don't like about Didi is that for some reason all of these guys all get into the loan business too. Didi is providing loans, so if you open the Didi app, instead of taking you right to ride sharing or ride hailing, they dedicated a huge chunk of screen real estate to providing you loans. I don't know why I should get loans when I'm trying to get a taxi, but whatever. So yeah, that's something I don't really like about these companies. They seem to want to do everything, and while their ride-hailing, it hasn't yet solved the supply issue. A lot of the times at like 10 or 11 p.m. at night in the middle of Shanghai, you don't have drivers. All right, last one, Pinduoduo, as I was just going to talk about it. Yeah, Pinduoduo is one of the companies I absolutely hate. Initially, I shorted it for a little bit, but then I started to not understand its business model, so I stopped shorting it, lost about 20%. I talked about this a few years ago, or 2 years ago, I don't even remember when. Why I hate this company? They sell shit. I don't fucking understand them. They would sell you things like a wok, like the Chinese wok for like 5 cents or 8 cents dollars. I mean, what the fuck? And then these things become paper thin. And still, I think the paper thin wok still costs more than like 8 US cents to make. And what about the shipping, right? It's like, what the fuck? It doesn't make any sense. And things, they would blatantly on Pinduoduo, there are TVs that says that's 55 inch. And when you get them, they're 45 inch. And people don't complain about it because they sell these TVs to essentially ignorant people in the countryside that has never seen a 55-inch TV. So they think what they're getting is indeed a 55-inch TV. And when people, there were some guys that tried to experience this firsthand, and then they would buy this and then take it to their friends in the industry and ask them how much this costs, and they wouldn't be able to give a quote because they say we don't have components of this standards because it's just too bad. So they basically sell absolute shit. And also the corporate culture there is called, the main theme is in Chinese called 本分, and I don't know how to translate that. Let's see. And obviously you can see Pornhub is my absolute must-have as entertainment. How do you call this? Well, One has to perform one's own duty. And it goes beyond your imagination. So there are guys that gets fired for not returning to work after lunch on a Saturday. Okay? A whole group of people will get fired for that. And they have a very strict time for meals. So even though the food has already arrived, if the clock hasn't ticked 11:30, or I think it was like 12 or something like that, if the clock hasn't ticked to that point, you're not allowed into that room. And you have like an hour to have your food, but an hour is okay, I guess. And they have this thing called Super Big Little Week. Okay, so a Big Little Week is essentially you have 1 week where you have Saturday mandatory, essentially on duty, and that alternates every other week. So you get one Saturday on and one Saturday off. A super little big week is you get one Sunday on and one Sunday off, and all the Saturdays are on. Okay, so that's their work culture. Their work hours go from 11 a.m. and you have to clock in, and you basically leave maybe after 11 p.m. or 1. And you repeat that for 13 days straight, and you get 1 day off, hopefully. And I'm like, yeah, well, they are basically treating these programmers as assembly line workers. They do pay a lot in China, so they pay, even for a new grad, they only take the best new grads, by the way. For a new grad, they would pay you something like almost 20k yuan a month. So that translates to 3k USD a month, which is pretty good in China for a new grad. So they pay you a lot, they chew you up, and then they spit you out. Basically, that's the gist of it. And then they sell shit. And they lie. I mean, the way they lie is through marketing messages. They basically blatantly lie. They say they would give you cash, but they don't. Anyway, it's a disgusting company. But maybe they will make a lot of money. I don't know. It's too disgusting, though. I refuse to deal with them. JD. JD is not really a tech company. They're almost like a FedEx plus eBay. Not eBay. FedEx plus Amazon. Or maybe just Amazon minus their cloud business. And so that's that. I use JD quite a lot. They get second day delivery, so that's the main reason I use them. And they're easy enough to deal with, and their pricing is usually okay. Don't have to price shop too much, and that's why I just buy from them. When new grads in China still prefer to go outside, they don't. Well, they are less and less likely to want to go outside because of, first, most of them don't speak English, so their choices are limited. Secondly, nationalism is getting stronger, so they don't particularly like other countries. And and thirdly, they don't really know what's going on outside. I mean, how would they know? all the media is controlled by the party, so they show you whatever they want to show you. Yeah, but that's right. Visa's not easy. You can't get out. How would you get out? Through what means? You can't just say I want to go out and you go out. You're stuck in this country. You can't get money out either. So so that's that. Any other questions before I finish my beer and go to bed? You're welcome, Dark Knight 9i9. Oh, one more gossip I'd like to share. It's still more bashing on Pinduoduo. They would check on your. They would check. Oh, yeah. So two pieces. One is Tencent is at the moment the unchallenged king for Chinese connecting with each other. There isn't a person. Basically, without WeChat, you can't get around. People connect you through WeChat and WeChat alone. That's one thing out of the way. And then secondly, in Pinduoduo, their human resources department will check on your phone and ask you to disband all WeChat groups that contain more than one company members. It seems like a blatant violation of my privacy, but I'm not their employee, so I don't get to complain to them. But, yeah. Oh, Pinduoduo is so much worse than Baba. Jeez. Pinduoduo is so much worse. In Alibaba, like, people are... they have this value transformation. They try to brainwash you a little bit. Yeah, which I don't like, but some people enjoy that. I mean, I know people that enjoy getting brainwashed. But Pinduoduo basically just chews you up and spits you out. Cainiao versus JD Logistic. Don't know too much about Cainiao. The only thing I know about them is that they probably have, they made alliances, so they're not working on their own. JD has the whole thing owned by itself, so I don't know how that is going to change things outcome. Baba, no secondary delivery. Baba's thing is they don't own the logistics, so it depends on the seller what kind of courier they use and whatnot. So it could be second day, but usually it's not second day. If I buy on Taobao or Tmall, they're not usually not second day. Usually third or fourth day. What do people use more? Baba or JD? For long tail demands, you use Baba. Well, specifically Taobao. There's a saying in China, well, Taobao has everything, right? So I'll give you an example. I can buy on Taobao an SSD with Windows 10 fake installed. Or I can buy on Taobao Disneyland tickets in Orlando that's 10% off. But I cannot do that on JD. But on JD, anything that's more standardized, I'll probably just buy on JD because I don't have to think much. I don't have to search through 3 or 20 different vendors that sell the same thing. But anything exotic or non-standardized, I'll probably go on Baba. For example, last time I was going to rent a GoPro. I did that on Baba instead of on JD. Would it not be good for China if these companies continue growing? Well, you got to reap at some point, right? You probably would, but but they can also be viewed as a threat to the regime. If they cannot be fully controlled, then they are a threat. And in terms of salaries, I think engineers here, when you graduate, oh yeah, there was a thing. I think that was on a previous video about like median income, but in China, software engineers on a first tier city like Shanghai, if you come from a good university, a good one, not a top one, not Tsinghua or Peking University, like a good one, like I know Fudan or something, you probably get paid between 12 to 20k Chinese yuan, so that translates to like 1.8 to 3k a month. And mind you, a typical apartment in Shanghai costs about, I don't know, between 60 to 100,000 yuan a square meter. So you're looking at $1 million apartments. They make $3,000. What do you think the mongers thought about? I don't know. I don't really. You probably saw something. I don't really know if I should buy Baba at the moment. I have no opinion whatsoever. This is just information and gossip on Baba. When do I think this crackdown will end? I have no idea. What is the public? Well, you wrote. Well, at least you wrote public instead of pubic, but that's beside the point. Public opinion for the most unenlightened is for that crackdown. They are now feeling they're getting oppressed by capital. An example, right? So, an employee of mine went to a place taking a Didi, and then he probably had some metrics that wasn't up to sniff, and he was basically cursing Didi's customer service all the way. And he was shouting things like, "Oh, you sell out. You're a lapdog of American capital, and then you're here to exploit Chinese people," and stuff like that. Things that has nothing to do with anything. But that's what that's a glimpse into the sentiment in China towards external capital at the moment. Is there any precedent for tech crackdowns on other industries in the past? There were crackdowns, but not specific to industries. There were some crackdowns on high pollution industries in certain cities, and then there were crackdowns whenever you touch the red line probably being challenging state interest. So, but yeah, I don't know. Well, yeah, there's another one. Real estate is now getting cracked down quite a lot. Last year, I think it was September-ish, they introduced this thing called 3 lines. So that 3 lines, I don't remember the specific numbers, but essentially they said if your debt to capital ratio was a certain percentage, you can no longer raise debt and stuff like that, right? And then this is probably going to cause a company to go bust, and that company is Evergrande, I think was called Evergrande, and it has 2 trillion Chinese yuan in assets. 2 trillion. Okay, so even if you turn that into dollars, you're looking at like 300 billion USD in assets. So that's probably going to get forced into bankruptcy. Let's see how that unfolds. I think copper will tend if China credit stops. I'm thinking why CCP would choose to stop credit, screw foreign investors. I have no idea. I have no idea what they're thinking. We have a primary school. Well, we have a leader whose highest educational level is primary school, so I wouldn't expect too much. Do you see Japan crisis? Yes, I do see that. I do see that credit crisis happening here too, either slowly or in a big explosion. All right, I think that's it for me tonight, and I shall go to bed. It's 2 a.m. here, as you can see from this little clock that's ticking. Thank you all for coming in, and what did actually happen to Looking? Well, they went bankrupt, and then now they are out of bankruptcy. They're still operating, but the fraudsters lost all their holding, so nothing to complain about. Good night, all.